Hello, this is Gravity Monster from AP&C Radio, and today we bring you Two Monsters Rolling Dice, an actual play podcast that presents the Uncanny Valley, a FateCore actual play podcast exploring an eerie world of fantasy, cowboys, and steam power. Grab your pistols, ponchos, and sarsaparillas as we dive into the uncanniest of valleys. And make sure to watch out for the chromatic storms and dinosaurs. This is AP&C Radio.
I think one of the... Besides my general question of rickrolling people, which you do a lot, is I saw when I was looking over your Twitter and other socials that you all actually had made your podcast material a full year in advance, or close to a year before actually launching the show. So how long did you plan the show before releasing it?
Slowly. We've been recording for about a year. And at first, the first handful of episodes, the prologues and the first maybe two, I think, episodes of the thing itself took us a couple of months to get to. We were just kind of starting it out. We knew we weren't going to launch right away. We had some time. We were kind of proof of concepting the whole thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We've all been role-playing for a long time in various ways and been entertaining in various ways for most of our lives. But this is our first podcast experience, making a podcast. So we gave ourselves some lead time on purpose so we could kind of see what it was like and try it out and go through a few versions of things before we were okay, now it's clicking, now it's working, this is the right kind of branding, the right sort of packaging, the right size, the right whatever.
Right.
We were pretty afraid to pull the trigger on actually, we had a lot of episodes ready to go, and I remember Harlow being should we just do it? Should we just put it up?
Yeah, and we just did. I was you know what, if not, we're just gonna sit here and then
You can't open a thing in this record it. What
right.
are you doing?
Oh, that's fine. That's what I have noise reduction for. But how did you the radio drama aspect come out? Because a lot of people are I'm just going to record my home game and put it up. Very little editing. And just hope for the best, versus this, where I really enjoyed that, episode 1, you see the character and it's strong already. You know what you're getting. I mean, you've definitely fine-tuned things over the last night, or the full 19 episodes so far. Yeah. But from episode 1, from episode 1, it's here you have that, we are a radio drama, and thank you, and you actually have that radio... I forget the call sign. KN.
WTMRD.
Yeah, WTMRD.
Yeah. It just sort of... There was no grand plan, at least at the beginning.
Yeah.
It felt right as far as the way it was coming together, that it would be a fun way to differentiate ourselves. We had written the score, and I'd already been slotting that in, and that alone added so much tone and so much character to the world and to the scenes. It was kind of a natural extension to be well, there should be a door sound here. We're making a joke about the door. And then it'd be well, we should just do the doorknob, the sound effects right there. And then it was well, they say they walk to the door, so just throw some footsteps in. And then it was just oh, you know what we should do? Just totally steer into this.
Yeah.
When we had played in another campaign with Harlow, and at the start of every episode, at the start of every session, he would give us a recap of what happened last time in that radio voice, and everyone really liked it. And I think that kind of just made it a natural fit for this, to kind of continue that tradition of, I guess not doing recaps necessarily, but just having this kind of outsider that's kind of somehow involved with everything. It feels like they're a part of the show, but not exactly.
Right.
Yeah, they're sort of omniscient. It's are they a character on the Uncanny Valley? Are we going to meet Jules DeCamp? Yeah.
I think Harlow, as a DM, has always kind of gone all in on some of that atmospheric stuff. With that campaign, we weren't recording it or anything. It was set in, the world of like the Fallout series.
Mhm.
And you had like a whole playlist of like music, and you had like music that you played when you did that announcer voice. So I feel like that's always been a big part, is like this performance, like all encompassing approach. And I think I do remember too that we had a discussion at one point where we were like, well, do we want to push it more this way? Do we want to edit out, you know, all of the rules stuff? Do we want to put in like little like footstep sound effects? And I think Harlow, you were just like, I'm just going to do it. And we all listened to it. And I think we're pretty on board. Although, you know, I think I still had some hesitation of like, well, all the actual plays that I listen to, you know, you hear them roll the dice and they say the numbers like every time. And we kind of, I think it was a little bit before we found like the perfect balance for us on that one.
Yeah.
I leave enough of that in when it's like big moments. I'll leave the numbers, or really contentious moments. I'll leave that in. But if it's just like Rico Bond coming into a bar and steamrolling with like a bunch of like intimidation checks, a bunch of like NPCs, I'm just like, well, I don't need to waste people's time by him being like 8 and I'm being like -2 and him being like 9. Like he just goes in and does it, you know,
Right.
like it just takes time and streamlines it and makes it more engaging and entertaining, I think. I mean, maybe we're wrong.
I mean, I just realized I completely forgot for you all to introduce yourself, since I'm actually recording.
Oh,
yeah. Which I'll add my part in later so it matches. But yeah, if you can say your names, characters if you'd like, and or nifty call signs.
I'm the Harlem Monster.
I'm the Sabina Monster. I play Chanterelle.
And I am the Jaren Monster, and I currently play Just Crawford.
And I'll, like I said, I'll add my name. I'm James, or Gravity Monster on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm I was gonna say mine, but I won't.
So far, there's already a lot of editing of just like just cut out things that we did that are questionable.
You're on the same page we are then.
So you said you had like a previous game, a home game that you were playing that was in the Fallout tabletop. So how long have you actually all been playing together with tabletop?
You, Mel, and Matt.
Yeah, I've been playing the longest.
Yeah.
Matt drew me in. The Matt Monster drew me in almost 20 years ago. And was in a group with Mel, the Melissa Monster, and several other people that we role played with. And we did that for years. And then it was about 10 years ago when we started playing with Cam and Sabina about. And then Cam got a job at a phone store and then Darren.
Cam is my partner.
Mm-hmm.
And the Cam Monster is yet to make their debut, but they will be a recurring character on the Uncanny Valley in some episodes that are gonna
We got a plan.
get coming up.
Yeah, and then Cam, I think, DM'd at one point, and then and you did a Star Wars camp. We've done so many campaigns at this point.
Yeah.
And then most recently, Jaren DM'd a Fate game for all of us. That was really fun.
Yeah, we played this epic 2-year campaign.
Over the pandemic, pretty much, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, was it like a weekly campaign or was it monthly?
Weekly, yeah. It was about pretty consistent too. I mean, we didn't have a lot to do during lockdown, so it was like pretty consistently, like every week for about 2 years we played.
Oh. When did you decide to go from doing home games to being like, you know, we should share our wonderful acting voice talents with the world?
I think it was Harlow who brought us all in. I had done an actual play live stream in the past that didn't go so great for me. But I think that was
Yeah, I mean, I've always had an amateur interest in audio of different kinds. I was a professional musician for a really long time, and I always wanted to break through into doing like voice work, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then over the pandemic, it became sort of necessary to assemble at least a little bit of pro audio equipment. We started proof of concept, tested like digitally role playing more. And I got really into podcasts over the pandemic because there was really nothing to do. And it was just like, I feel like we're good at this. We have great chemistry. We do have fun, which is, I feel like, a professional advantage that we have compared to a lot of podcasts who maybe have a really cool setting or got a lot of good jokes, but they don't really know each other. Like, I feel like the fact that we enjoy each other's company and playing together so much is a part of what makes it fun to listen to. And I think it just sort of, one thing led to another. It just made sense. It was a kind of relatively cheap way to do something together.
Mm-hmm.
And once we started doing it and like the concept sort of crystallized, we were all kind of like maybe starting to suspect it was kind of good. We were like, I think we have to do this. Like, it just, if anything, at that point, to check it off, it's like we said we were going to do it, and we did, and then, you know, people started actually to listen. So it was pretty cool, pretty gratifying.
Yeah, how does that feel, going from making something that you're like, I don't know if people are going to listen to I see people who are like commenting on Twitter. There's a couple on Facebook, and seeing like the good podcasts being like, oh yeah, you know, you're up there on the numbers of people listening to you.
It's super weird.
Yeah. It feels like amazing and surreal. You know, it was something that I think we'd secretly hoped, you know, but it's also something that we're all realistic. You can't, you know, you got to be like, well, most likely, like a couple of close friends and family members are going to tune in.
Right. You have to kind of tell yourself over and over again, like, there's no way that this is going to be like, I think, you know, we were all inspired by a lot of our favorite, you know, actual play enterprises. And, you know, from the beginning, we've been like, all right, like, you know, it's probably pretty unlikely that, you know, we're going to reach any level like that. And so when you start actually hearing people say how much they like it, and, you know, people are live tweeting their listens and tagging you and stuff and talking to you about the characters.
We've had fans make memes and stuff, which is like...
It's so difficult to balance, like, feeling really excited and also still being like, okay, but you can't get your hopes up, like, too high.
Yeah.
Not to mention 20.
When's it going to end?
Yeah.
It feels like surreal, or it's like we're being shown this taste, and then like, 3 weeks, no one's there, and no one ever will be. It's like, okay, now we're back to what we expected.
Right.
Yeah, it's weird to have people on like Facebook reach out to me that I haven't talked to in years and be like, hey, I was listening to your podcast and I'm really enjoying it. And I'm like, well, why are you doing that? Like, what are you doing?
I still, the acquaintance, I listen to your podcast and I really like it, is still the most powerful one for me. Because, like, friends and family, you know, they're going to listen because they support you, they love you, whatever. And, like, strangers, you know, maybe you've engaged with them, like, you know, via their own podcast, so it makes sense that they would listen. So when it's just, like, someone you kind of tangentially know that, like, you know, bothered to listen and liked it so much that they're willing to interact with you, a person that they don't always interact with, it means like so much too.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
And it makes it easier to do, like, it, you know, as you know,
yeah,
things don't just fall off the tree. Like, you have to plan them and care about it in order for it to turn out as something that's listenable or watchable.
Yeah.
And knowing that it's working even in a small degree makes it effortless. I mean, it makes it fun, you know, like it.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Oh, hey. Didn't see you there. Are you having fun? I sure am. Two Monsters Rolling Dice has been a lot of fun to interview and get to know. If you're enjoying the podcast, leave a comment, or if you like the group, go ahead and check them out. Tell them Gravity Monster sent you. And if you have a podcast creator or other tabletop RPG you want me to interview, drop their names below and I'll do my best to check them out. Now enough of this break. Let's get back to the interview.
That's definitely something I've noticed. To go back to your comment about like your friends who are like having fun, which is definitely a strength that you have, because I see all the time on Discord groups or Twitter or wherever, like DM looking for players for actual play podcasts set in a whatever setting. And it's like you're not friends and you all live wherever. It's not gonna work. You're gonna get 10 episodes in and then someone's gonna be like, well, I can't make it this week, and that's gonna happen every week.
Yeah, right. And
Yeah.
some pebble will fall down the hill, and
Yeah.
then you've got left versus right. I voted for Trump. You're like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Sorry, we can cut that if you don't want it.
Yeah.
That's where like a little GIF will go in.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
I answered one of those like random calls, casting calls, for my first live stream experience.
How did that go, Sabina?
Yeah.
You know, it turned out that one of the people that was involved with that, I don't know how anyone would have worked with them. But I will say that I feel like part of it is building up like a real like trust too, and I think that's an important part of improv, which is definitely a part of pretty much all actual plays. I think is I definitely have noticed, having been in both situations, if you're in a scene where, you know, either funny or dramatic with someone who you don't respect or don't think is, you know, talented and good, it is hard for you then to be talented or good or funny back in response. Like, if Harlow makes a stupid joke, I can just make another joke about how stupid that joke was. But if someone that I don't...
Not that that's ever how she means.
No, oh yeah. But if someone, you know, and, you know, I obviously make a lot of stupid jokes, and these guys all make fun of me as well. But if it's like someone that you have interpersonal drama with or just don't like, then it's like you don't even want to respond to them, and then it's very awkward to listen to and to be doing. So I feel like I definitely have strangers that I've played with that I totally had like an immediate camaraderie and kind of like trust and building up with. But I also feel very lucky to have people that I have known for so long that I have like an instant seeming rapport with all the time that we spent together.
Yeah, that trust goes such a long way. Like,
Yeah, with
we all know where we stand with each other all the time.
when you're playing and you're kind of like riffing off each other and you're doing the improv of kind of like yes-anding, who do you find you're either just vibing with really well, and who is someone that you always have to ring in that's not Harlow?
I think at different points we all need ringing in different ways, I would say. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I only pick on you, Harlow, because in your last edit for things, I think you did it to yourself. You're just like, I'm going to bring you back in. What are you doing?
We definitely have to reel Harlow in.
Yeah, I mean, I have my ADD has ADHD, so it's really easy for me to just get riffing.
We've actually appointed Jaren to kind of reel all of us in, particularly during announcements, I think, but in general as well, because we all get hugely distracted. Mel and I also have ADHD, and we all, like, I feel like for a long time, we would just spend the first hour and a half of our recording time talking about movies, and we still do that sometimes, or just making totally irrelevant jokes, because that's the downside, I think, to all being friends, right? It's that it's exciting to see your friends every week, and especially if we didn't get to record for a couple weeks in a row, then it's like we want to catch up, we want to hang out, we want to have fun together.
Yeah, none of us want to rush. Like, we're trying to have this be a professional podcast, but not like at the expense of our personal relationships. So no one's like trying to rush anyone too much.
Mhm.
Yeah, there are times where like we carve out about 4 to 6 hours for a recording session, and there are times where we get
all
about
get
an hour
pretty
and a half recorded
Yeah.
tops.
I feel like Harlow gets the giggles a lot, and so does Matt. And then Mel will occasionally break into song. I'll just kind of talk too much, I think. Jaren is really the MVP. He's eyes on the prize.
Yeah, Jaren's just good at this.
Yeah.
Well, that was actually something I was going to ask for Jaren was when listening to there's very specific scenes with like the teller where I'm like, sign me up. Like, how do you prepare to basically like be a Wild West preacher when you're getting
It comes so naturally.
I know, I'm just like, yes,
Eerie.
where do I donate, please?
Yeah, there are times us are like, I guess you're kind of have your hand on the switch here, buddy.
Yeah.
What happens next?
So in the campaign that I ran for the 2-year campaign, I had a villain in that campaign that is pretty much just Crawford. It's like the same character, very smooth talking, deal making kind of person. And then Harlow told me about, because I got to pick which kind of religious group I wanted my person, and I was like, oh, Justice sounds great. Like that sounds perfect for him. And so I guess for me, I like to, throughout the week, I will practice certain like lines and certain things that if the situation comes up, I am prepared to deliver like really, really good on it. So I guess that's how I prepare. Yeah. It's just kind of thinking about it. And, I often like playing characters that are just on the edge of maybe not really being a part of the group. Like they walk that line very carefully of kind of, is this a person a part of the party and actually cares about everyone? Or are they kind of just here because the party helps them?
Right.
Tell him about the Fallout character. And
let's hear that.
I was gonna say he finds ways to do this every campaign, so he's not just rehashing the same like wheeling and dealing guy. Like he finds new ways to fuck with us.
I played kind of like a mad scientist in the Fallout campaign who started off being able to practice medicine, like quote unquote, but then became an actual doctor as the campaign went on. And everyone still teases me because I got a part-time job at a hospital as my character, like working hours. And the group would be like, we got to go do this mission. And I'd be like, I got a shift at the hospital, so I can't go.
We're like, dude, what are we doing? We're role-playing, man. And you're like, I'm late for work, Harlow. Can you get this scene going? I've got a hospital shift.
Jaren's sister Jaina, also the exact same way, with these like immersive, like sort of vaguely party antagonistic characters. She played one of the hillbillies on our guest episode. But we spent all of Jaren's campaign with her kind of as like the secondary big bad to our group that was all traveling together. So whatever the foxes are doing, they're all in on those kinds of characters.
I once had
sorry.
Yeah. I once had a character that was a goblin in one of the actual play podcasts I used to be in. And they had a regular day job. It was basically they had 5 different day jobs that they would do throughout the week. So whenever the party's like, oh, we need your assistance, I'm like, let me see who can cover my shift really quick. Okay, I'm ready. No, we need to, and it was partially to like make the party go faster. Be like, I got to get to work in an hour, guys. Like, we need to slay this dragon now because I got to go clean up a like bakery.
Yeah, like I'm gonna get in trouble. My boss said I can't be late.
I can't be late for my boss here.
Smell back?
Hopefully. I mean, I was gonna ask her about having the like Han Solo. I felt like feel like she has kind of like the anti-hero Han Solo of the party, where it's like she is her own like lead and could do a story, but at the same point, is part of the group. Yeah,
sort of entwined with things at this point.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that someone said like she was the antagonist
Mhm.
on Twitter, because I don't think any of us have ever seen her as the antagonist. I think that there's this idea that our party is like supposed to be like one cohesive group, and I think that it's partially fate and partially just maybe Jaren's influence on all of us, but all of our characters have very distinct sort of goals and motivations. And I've never.
Hear me?
Yes.
Hey, we can't. Yeah,
Hey.
yeah. I think like I said, my view of who the antagonist is probably just Crawford.
It's Adley Dufresne. Totally Adley Dufresne.
I think that, and you'll see this as our episodes come out too, it does change kind of like who our characters are allied with and, whose side they're on at any given time. Hi, Mel.
Now that we have you, do you want to introduce yourself and your character?
I am the Melissa Monster, and I play Adelie Dufresne.
And this is perfect time because we were just talking about how you are. Someone said that you might be the antagonist of the group, and then Just Crawford, of course, agrees.
Of course he does.
Yeah.
Anytime that Jaren says that, his rent goes up because he lives in my home. So you're getting up there, Jaren.
But
But
yeah, with that,
I think it's us when this happens
Yeah.
because then we get all this extra money to improve the studio.
Right.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I've never thought of Adelie as the antagonist. But that being said, because we do so far, especially in those early episodes, spend a lot of time kind of separate from Adelie. It's like the three of us and then it's her. We were a lot of the time, I think, checking in with Mel and being like, Mel, is this cool? Like, and I think that we're we try to be very in tune with each other across the board. And I think that,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Nothing that's happened in the story has been at the expense of any players'
Yeah.
comfort or well-being. And the stuff that has been a surprise is, none of the stuff that has personally affected the players. To be honest, most of that, the four of them, just kind of done to each other. Like, I haven't had to plan a lot of the group antagonizing itself stuff. Just kind of said, let's start. And then they just kind of start scheming against each other. But I mean, I think the setting is a part of that. And then, we frame the narrative to be like the way it starts is like, you meet all these characters in the prologues, and you meet Adelie less, and all you know is that she's running from something.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't know much more than that. And then your sort of entrance into that world is through Just Crawford, who's got a very skewed perspective of the story. And as it goes on, that viewpoint broadens, and the sympathies kind of stop resting just with him. But that's why I think, at a glance, it's easy to say that, maybe Adelie is the antagonist because the initial mission is go get her. But clearly it seems like they're doing a pretty good job of antagonizing each other to me. Meanwhile, the gears are turning.
We've seen, the propensity to kind of do bad things or antagonistic things from each of these characters. They're each, we wrote each of them to be like pretty flawed, and that I think fate plays into that a lot because you're supposed to have your trouble. And yeah, we started off kind of with these like prologues that kind of are explorations of a lot of our like trouble and other aspects. So I think it's very easy for each of us to find times to, make a mistake or do the wrong thing. Just has a confidence about his character that maybe at least Chanterelle doesn't share. But I think that Jaren does a good job of kind of very slowly kind of revealing that, like, while Just is in this like pious position, his motivations and the ways that he does things and the reasons that he does them are not necessarily aligned totally with a fully moral, pious belief. Is that a good way of putting it, Sharon?
Yeah, and almost every campaign, I like certain things to be out of my control a little bit, and so when I make characters for most campaigns, I have a couple rules that, like, if X happens, then I will do this, and kind of regardless of what I think. And so in this campaign, there was a couple of those variables that happened, and I said, okay, this character is now going down this path instead of maybe taking a separate path.
He plays those type of characters terrifyingly well.
So good.
Yeah.
Yeah, really scary.
Uncomfortably at times.
Yeah. There's definitely been like interactions between like the teller's character and Adeline, like just the conversation, because there was that little bit of like hunting her down that I'm like, oh, both the mixture of editing and then also the voice acting on it, I was like, y'all, I need to interview you all, because it's just too good. I got to figure out how you make the secret sauce. Plus, I really wanted to do a parody of where Adeline's in her like cabin. I think it was to the north, and there's a like chromatic storm going, and then there's the guy outside who's just like,
oh god, that guy.
Yeah, like the weather's kind of crazy out here, and then you're like, okay, go away. But like in that scene, I was
the
like,
tension that you feel in that scene is absolutely the tension that I felt while we were recording that, because Melissa has no idea what to do, and yeah, nor does Emily. So
your character, for better or for worse, your character's at this point like firmly non-combatant physically. Like she's has aspects at this point that sort of deter her from engaging in violence just because of who she is. And so those kinds of scenes, I feel like, get menacing fast, because, there's not much she could do if something was going to escalate.
Which that's kind of because I also was reading through the FateCore rulebook to prepare.
Cool.
But
it's pretty cool there, though, right?
Yeah,
like, it's a cool rulebook.
It is really cool because it's so different. It is definitely more kind of like Fiasco and other tabletop systems where it's like, no, it's about narrative role play, and we will be guiding through our choices and options instead of roll the number and I'm exactly 60 feet away.
Yeah, it's almost like the rules are almost like conversational. Like they're just sort of like ideas that the guys have based on like experience and situational stuff. Yeah.
I think that's another way that trust comes into it too. I feel like Fate requires you to have like a trust and respect for each other's kind of like vision for the characters in the narrative.
Yeah, sure. It's certainly not mechanical. Like it's,
because you can spend a fate point to change a detail about the story. Right. Like, that kind of makes us all DMs.
Oh yeah, this is a very collaborative game. Like the power is across the table. It's not just solely with me.
I mean, let's be clear, you have put in so much work to create the world and, all of the characters and pretty much all of the story, but it does have like a more collaborative building effect, I think. Use Fate.
Well, it encourages it. It there's like the mechanical stuff that does exist sort of exists to pay off taking those narrative collaborations together and stuff. Like,
which
I feel like grounded question.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. That's fine because it actually brings up another good one, which is from a Ginger Writes on Twitter, was asking if like an NPC that Harlow has introduced has ever taken anyone by surprise. But I would also add on to it, has anything that other people have done taken you or your characters by surprise? And we can, just leave Harlow out of it.
Harlow's world, Palmyra, that he has built is, I mean, we've been campaigning in it for well over a decade. And absolutely characters come out of nowhere, and I would have never have thought of it or prepared for it. And no, absolutely. I don't know what he's planning, and everything is always a surprise. So.
I think that everyone at the table has had a moment where like my jaw has dropped because of something they've done. which is really cool. I think that I'll shout out Mel in particular. Has had a few like jaw-dropping moments of like stuff she had planned on her own, or like stuff she had written out, or some of it was pre-prepared with Harlow, I think, and some of it was not. But she really always lands those like huge reveals that no one was expecting.
Sometimes she'll do me a courtesy and be like, just so you know, I'm planning this. And I'll be like, okay. Like, give me something, some new notes to make.
Yeah, I feel bad because Harlow, he is the victim to me just driving and then having a random thought and doing like the voice to text thing, and I will just do an onslaught of text messages like, Harlow, I am driving, but I had this idea and I need to get it out now, and it'll be like 10 text messages, and then he'll be like, yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Well, I like to encourage. You gotta encourage player engagement, but I also don't want to like pre-plan anything. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want this to be a written thing, because then we're starting to just be like a radio drama, which isn't quite what we're going for. I think the improv stuff is one of the things that's most fun for us. Maybe I'm being audacious by speaking for everyone, but I think those moments when each one of us have totally caught the others by surprise are part of what's really fun about doing.
I do wish we had video of some of those moments, like the one telegram that Adelie sent.
Yeah,
if you had panned around the room to see our faces, it was all just like just total. Nobody saw that coming.
There's several moments where Rico Bond interrupts a scene with violence, like a threat of violence, which at this point has come to be a little bit more of an expectation. But when we were first getting started, like genuinely startling, or like he would acknowledge this is inappropriate, but Rico Bond's out of patience.
Yeah, I'm trying to like smooth talk someone and he just comes in and intimidates them, and I'm like, all right, I guess that works too.
Yeah, it's like Captain America coming in with the gun, being like, the computer was taking too long.
I mean, that would also, like, down the road, if you ever made a Patreon, would be great Patreon content, the bloopers of recording. Although
we heard your suggestion. We're not opposed to it.
Yeah.
I think
we certainly have a lot of bloopers.
Yeah.
So many.
Yeah, that's putting it lightly.
I'm all about that Stomps plushie too.
Yeah, everybody wants a Stomps plushie.
Yeah, of course.
We're on
I'm
that.
working on it.
Yeah, not pandering or exaggerating. It is by far the most requested piece of. Excuse me.
And
by far the most requested piece of merchandise of our entire show.
Yeah.
It's like, cool. Thanks, guys.
He's also like everyone's favorite character. So.
Yeah.
But yeah.
He's a good boy.
I just want to point out for everyone, those effects are practical. It is not a real bison. That's a puppet done by the Henson Creature Shop.
Ooh.
True story.
That's another fun fact.
Yes.
Harlow and his voice work is that he is a puppeteer who does variety shows and stuff with like real like Henson type puppets, and in fact played in the last campaign that Jaren DM'd as two characters, one of whom was a puppet of an otter.
Brilliant.
I almost came as Anarchist, to be honest. That might be fun, but there are some puppet phobias in the group.
My partner does not like puppets.
So,
have you ever seen the puppet creepypasta then?
Oh my god, no.
Maybe?
There's a whole lore about like malicious puppets that come to life and like stalk kids, and it's a creepypasta.
Oh yeah, sure.
We can't ever tell Cam about that.
I
Sounds
actually,
like Rap Cam's alley.
I'll just say that and then cut that part out and then be like, you can watch this now. While I slowly have like an evil Kermit rise from the bottom of the screen.
Oh god.
I have these like eyes that you can attach to your hand that are like Muppet eyes, so I could just like slowly like have characters appear.
what to go with like because I originally took the Stomps plushie actually from someone else who had requested it. I'm like, that is a great idea. I'm just gonna echo that.
Seriously.
Yeah.
I liked the visual that you had in the review. That was great.
I'm like, bison plushie. Take it from Etsy.
Also, did you mock up notebooks with our symbol on them too? That was so cool. I was like,
when did Harlow order that stuff?
we actually actively are working on some merch, TBA, to be announced.
Yeah, some pretty cool stuff is in the works.
Yeah, so we're excited about that.
Yeah, that's part of my background and why I like to add stuff is like I'm one of the like graphic designers for my podcast, so it's like I'll just create mock-ups or be like, hey, we could do this thing or that thing, or you could always do this other thing. So it's like right now I'm looking into making custom cards, so it's like this is what it would look like, this is how we would do it. But what all do you want from your podcast? Like what are, without spoiling what your characters are going to do, but like on the podcast side, what is it that you would want to see like the next step that you want to do, whether it's Patreon, merch, throwing rocks at people who say bad things about your podcast?
No one's done that yet, so I think...
And they would be right to say bad things.
They're just not saying them to our faces, maybe.
Yeah. We shit talk the podcast like a lot.
Harlow shit talks the podcast, and he's allowed to because he puts the most work into it.
It's a stupid podcast.
I don't know. What do you guys think? I think, what do I want for the podcast?
I mean, do you mean like story-wise, or do you mean like big picture?
A little bit of both. Where it's like for story, like for your character, because that's one avenue we could go down. Where it's what do you want for your character, or if you're since you're DMing, Harlow, what do you want out of the characters for the podcast? Like what point you want to get to. But then for podcasting, because we all do it for fun, we all enjoy podcasting and sharing our stories with people. But what is it that like I really like that idea in the back of your head? Like I really want to get to this point. Like this is the goal I kind of want that maybe I haven't shared with everyone, but like I want this to be a book or a cartoon or someone make funny shorts about us doing silly things.
I can feel that one because I've told the group before. I would love at some point to do like a panel at a convention, like where we would be a panelist at a convention or something. I think that'd be super fun.
I think we did all go around and say like what our dream thing would be. And I think mine at that point was to meet Brendan Lee Mulligan, which I'll stick with. Brendan Lee Mulligan, if you're watching this,
I'll add him on the video.
Yeah, perfect.
Make a short, tag him.
He doesn't have enough parasocial relationships, I think. Yeah.
And then if you ever are all on a panel, I'll fly out and be the MC. I'll just like, hey, everyone.
Amazing. Excellent.
Yeah.
Would love that.
We've
discussed going to Gen Con next year, so that might be in the books.
Mm-hmm.
Might.
Yeah. I thought about flying out just to go because I haven't been to Gen Con since I'm on the West Coast. I'm just like, that would be fun to go
I haven't been either. Yeah.
Yeah, same. Really close.
Yeah, it is.
I went one time. Very fun. I enjoyed it.
What's your goal for the podcast, Harlow?
Super famous, super rich.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Tons of trim, just drowning in tail.
It shows the right industry.
Yeah. No, I mean, ultimately, I think it would be so goddamn gratifying to find out that at some point what we're doing inspired someone else to pick up like storytelling and this kind of, maybe even more specifically, like, role playing, like, or podcasting, like basically being an inspiration to somebody would, I feel like, be one of the utmost artistic gratifications that this podcast can receive.
We kind of had that a little bit with the podcast that was just starting up. That I think, they were pretty direct about us being an inspiration to them, and they asked us to listen to their first episode and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and that did mean a lot.
Yeah, it meant a ton. Yeah.
I think storytelling and D&D, all kinds of escapism.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, entertaining a group of people with the story that you're telling, however much they're involved too, is I think an incredibly important human connection.
Yeah.
That people make, and to perpetuate that is basically what I'm looking for. Because we can all acknowledge we're not gonna nobody's gonna make a lot of money podcasting.
Yeah. I think unless it got cut out or I didn't hear it, Melissa, what was something that you would really want for the podcast or your character?
Adelie, my character, I would love to see her being left alone by the teller. No, just doing her own thing and potentially, I don't know, running the best brothel. I don't know, just living out her life in the brothel, because that's what she does. Podcast wise, I have a couple of different answers because they all kind of weigh in the same boat for me. But for me, I've been role playing with Harlow and Matt for nearly 2 decades now, and as I get older, these times are more precious to me, and I hold on to everything. And I'm thankful to have these recordings just for me to listen to in the future, to look back and have that nostalgia, because I'm all about quality over quantity when it comes to friends.
Right.
And the people I have in my life, I hold dear and I love them all. So just having these clips mean the world to me. As for where the podcast goes, I would love to see my friends' talents get recognized and them, potentially going off and doing their own things because of it. Harlow does all of the editing. He and Matt do music, and just the talent alone between those two, and then their role playing is phenomenal, and I could totally see them going on tons of different podcasts and doing things like that. So, my personal goal for myself with the podcast, I guess, I would love to do one-shots with these characters in front of live audiences. I think that would be awesome. So that's me.
Totally. My character goal for Chanterelle is, I think, just to have her find a cause and believe that she can make a difference. Because I feel a lot of her trouble is this sort of powerlessness that translates into these really rash decisions. It's she can't really rebel against this system that's got her by the collar, but she can have these little acts of rebellion, but those little acts of rebellion don't actually do much in terms of changing anything or doing good for anyone.
They make it worse, almost unilaterally.
Right. Yeah. So I think my goal for her would be to have her find a way to actually enact positive, meaningful change, and realize that her current mode of existence is not helping her or anyone around her. Yeah, that's it. No specifics other than that.
Mm-hmm.
I think for Just, it's really my real hope is that the party walks into the final boss room and it's Just. I think
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's been an interesting character to play, and I'm kind of with Sabina where I don't have anything super specific right now that isn't crazy spoiler heavy. I definitely have some goals for the character, but a lot of mine are a little bit spoiler heavy as to what Just is doing. He has a lot of machinations in place, and I'm hoping to spread the good word of Morrigan.
I think that just establishing a neighborhood watch was again a real turning point for both Sabina and Chanterelle on just as a character.
It was a bold reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah, it starts with a neighborhood watch that leads into a gated community that leads
Yeah,
into
like-
Into a train moving people around.
Yeah.
Historically, like, what is a neighborhood watch for? Usually it's not
It's
good.
profiling.
Usually the people who start that have their own motives and it kind of signifies a greater, will to power.
Or it's
All
been
about safety.
aliens.
Sure, yeah. I mean, again, I'm sure there's a good neighborhood watch out there somewhere, maybe. I'm not.
Before you know it, we're all
Howdy.
going to be going to the Church of Crawford. So,
There'll be two. It'll be the brothel and then the church, and that's the only forces in the town.
Yeah, there's just two countries.
Yeah. The Uncanny Valley is just divided right down the middle.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
Aeon Flux.
And I heard that Ben Stiller neighborhood watch reference, and they're defending it against aliens.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I
Yeah.
just slipped it in there.
Yeah.
Nobody noticed.
I kind of knew it, but not enough to laugh about it.
I watched the movie, and I gotta say, unremarkable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will also say this to sort of further explain Jaren's statement about he can say some things, but they might be a little spoiler heavy. We still have recorded fairly well ahead.
Mhm.
So like we're not like finishing episodes and then cramming them. Like we're not like crossing finish lines. We still we have recorded ahead and have a little hopper still.
We're closing the gap.
Right.
Yeah, it's when we started, but like it is still we are ahead of the game. So that's also to what he means. Like as far as spoilers, we're a little ahead of the story as far as what's been released. So there's a couple of things that happen
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
fill us up.
Yeah.
Next question.
Next question is burnout. So that because you've all have talked about like everyone having like slightly different roles of what to do, whether it's like social media, editing. You've also talked. I didn't know, but you have like 4-hour recording sessions, which
At least.
at least, which is like my home game is 2 hours and my my podcast is 2 to 3 hours. Like 4 hours is a lot. By that 2.5 hour mark, I'm like, I don't know what you want me to do anymore, guys. Just no. So
yeah. So to be fair, we're like that. So.
Yeah.
We start off like that. That's why it takes so long.
So how does everyone like avoid burnout and voicing your like, I guess, needs to the group? Like, do you have anything in place, or do you
I
just
think that's-
yeah?
Go ahead.
As I said, we have a Thursday meeting, so we record on Sundays, but then we have a Thursday meeting that's kind of like a temperature check / seeing how everyone's feeling, making sure that our schedules are all lined up, and that if anyone has any concerns, we really try to talk about them then, so that when we come on Sunday, ideally, we can start recording and kind of get everything moving.
Ideally.
Yeah.
Ideally.
But also, I think the burnout thing is we're still sort of finding some methods. We've been doing this for a year, but really only released. We started releasing at the end of January this year.
And we didn't start marketing until like midway through February.
I mean, until like
Yeah.
then-ish, kind of. And even then, like, we had a Facebook page beforehand with that had some random art stuff and ideas just to kind of get the buzz in people's ear.
Mhm.
But like,
It's been tough because we've all been going through a lot of life stuff. I think at the same time, Carlo had a baby, and I
did.
just got really behind in work and some had like medication stuff. And I think, we were dealing with like a couple of us got COVID. Like, Matt also has a daughter who had, has her stuff too. Like, we all just have a lot of life stuff, and we all, work and take care of our families and all of that stuff. And I feel like we all care a lot about this, which makes it easier to put work in. But I think that we all maybe over the last few weeks have experienced burnout in regards to the podcast for maybe the first time after that like initial excitement of launching it and then getting this like really positive reaction. And I think it's something that we're still trying to kind of figure out, how much time can we put towards this? Like, where do we want to put our resources? I think that we definitely try to make all of our decisions really democratically. And I don't think anyone has ever pressured anyone else to like put in more than they can. I think that we all try to like respect and take seriously meeting everyone where they're at.
Yeah, any of the stuff one of us doesn't want to do. Like, I have a Twitter account, but I'm not like a social media guru. I don't care a ton about social media, so it makes more sense that someone else does that. We share the duties, and
I think a lot of the pressure is like self, individual for us. I think, the responsibility we feel toward each other is not one that we're putting on each other. It's one that each of us is putting on our own self on behalf of the other ones, maybe.
Yeah, like we're desperately trying not to make this a thing where we're like, I need you to step up. Like, we're all trying to keep it together.
Right.
Yeah.
It helps that we're all super close friends because we communicate all the time, through text or chat. I have like an array of health issues, so like I'll text them and everything's fine. Like they come up with plans with, what we can and can't record, or we all know of each other's like trials in life. So I never look at my friends and be like, okay, well, you've missed like 3 or 4 in a row. It's never like that. It's like, well, you have life issues and I respect that. So let's see what we can do.
Yeah, Mel, I actually been meaning to talk to you about your attendance.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. I know my attendance has been down, especially since, we record here in my house.
We do. We do that, yes.
Oh, that would just be funny is they record in your house, but sorry, I got to go to the store. I can't make it.
She's just sitting on the couch.
I'm real
It'd be even more
swamped,
awkward
guys.
if I did that, because our recording studio is literally like right behind this curtain behind me, so it'd be kind of awkward if
I mean, if you need the time, you need the time. Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. Us being friends has enabled us to be like, honestly, this week, I'm not going to show up and do a great job. Like, it's been a shitty week, and like we're in a big scene. Can we reschedule?
Yeah.
And we can all be like, totally, man. Like, do you need anything else? Do you want to meet on Zoom and just like fuck around to blow off some steam? And the friend it gives us being friends does give us that advantage where it's like,
yeah, the care we feel
get it.
is genuine and like outside of this thing that we're creating.
yeah, it's not just like workmates who are kind of being like, God, you always do this. Again, Mel, you two have been missing a lot.
Yeah, but
So,
Shut up. Taking your snacks away. No.
I do want to shout out Mel for having the best snack arsenal in all of Michigan for us every time we record.
yeah, that's one of the professional advantages is our craft services is pretty off the chart.
Monster
good,
and Nutty
though.
Buddies as far as the eyes can see.
Yeah. If we could get Monster to sponsor,
I know.
I would pay for a lot that goes into the craft services. But it's also like frustrating, especially for Harlow, because I will go all in on the snack action. Nothing is spared, and I will have a plethora of them to choose from. And we all want a snack, but we're role playing, and we have these like super hardcore mics.
Chewiest caramels and like and like fucking Nutter Butter.
Jar of Skittles, like
Every single week, I'll watch Matt try to be sneaky while he opens up like some sort
Every
of.
week.
Pringles.
It just goes right into the mic.
Those marshmallows too.
Not making
We
it
had these
noise.
bag of marshmallows, and we were all like, "Matt's gonna come down here and start eating those marshmallows immediately, and it's gonna
Yeah,
have
and he
a
totally
weird."
did.
Totally did.
It's like called C for C. Amazing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What was the question?
I forgot now. Now I was just thinking about who would you want as to like sponsor the show besides Monster. Because
Good question.
honestly,
Evil Hat Productions would be great.
Evil
Evil
Hat,
Hat Productions would be a big one. We are huge fans of their work.
Gonna tag them now.
Absolutely.
I'm also a big fan of Fennec and Finch. The dice makers have a lot of their stuff. Don't know if they make any fake dice, but I have dice trays and all kinds of stuff. Elderwood Academy is local to us. They are right down the road, so that would be a cool one.
Yeah, there's a couple of local establishments that we've tossed the idea around of doing some like smaller scale paid advertisements that, just be for our local listeners.
Yeah, shout out Upkeep Games in Ann Arbor. We're big fans. Yeah. Jaren plays there all the time.
So you're saying I have to? I'll do this. I'll find each of those websites and then just send this video to them.
To find sponsors for us, but we're not telling you.
It's just be like, hey, did you know that this really cool podcast gave you a shout out on another really cool podcast? And hey, maybe you should watch it and share it with your friends.
Sponsor both of them.
Sponsor both, yeah.
Could be good.
Because that actually, as part of like a podcast production, I think that you have it set up really well. How you have your intros, your like mid. It's about like at the 20-25 minute mark. Pretty consistently, where you have that like little break, and then at the end, where if someone wanted to sponsor your podcast, that's a perfect time for them to just be like, hey, can you put in a Monster Energy drink ad in the middle as you slowly sip on the microphone very loudly your Monster Energy drink?
Like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
We do want to make money. We do this out of passion, but we would not say no to any money that people gave us, especially because Harlow puts like a crazy amount of hours into this thing, and he is basically a full-time stay-at-home dad and a full-time unpaid podcast producer and editor and musician.
Everything.
Yeah, I was trying to.
We cut that part.
No, that's the GIF now. I'm gonna crop you out. That's gonna be on the front thumbnail. There we go.
One of our big goals, I think, and this we didn't mention it before, was getting to the point where Harlow could be compensated for all of the work he does, because it is, I think a lot of podcasts will say like, oh my gosh, like your editing is so good, like it's so tight, like all the sound effects and the soundtrack and everything else. That's because Harlow puts everything into it. And I think it would be really, really great once we start, breaking even on this thing. If I don't know.
Yeah. We're able to do it and not need to be reimbursed. So we're lucky. Yeah. That's an advantage I think we do have. But I do tend to be meticulous, and it would certainly make my parents more proud of this podcast if I could say we were getting paid. Mom.
She won't watch this.
Yeah, I know. She's not interested.
My mom will be proud for all of us.
Aw, thanks, Mom.
That's
the first comment we ever got on our website was from Mel's mom, and it was very supportive, if maybe a little confused.
It was adorkable. If you knew my mom, it was precious.
God, but I like it or something, right? Was that?
I don't know. I don't know what I'm listening to, but hopefully I'll catch on. I think that's what the comment was.
It wasn't even explicitly positive remark.
It was funny though, but she meant it super so like positively, because she's like, my dad is always telling people like, oh, my daughter does a podcast. He does not know what a podcast is. But I had texted my mom after Harlow had like pointed that out, and she's just like, I really like all the sounds and songs. I'm like, you're precious, Mom. But she could not follow the story. But we love it, though.
I'm trying to enjoy this, basically.
I found Anthony LaFauci, or Huey Lewis and the Snarfs on Twitter, wanted to know how long it takes you to compose the music for the podcast.
A lot of the music is already composed, and what I do, I have a little bit of experience with scoring and stuff, so I compose the tunes to be editable, so I can come out with like a 2-minute version or a 4-minute version or a 7-minute version of a tune, but it's cut together from like a minute 30 of song, basically. And we recorded most of the score beforehand in a sort of fugue state. Matt and I started talking about it, and less than 2 weeks later, we had like 25 of the songs recorded. And a lot of them were just like, here's an idea, cool, song. Like, we just kind of like fought through it. It was a fun experiment because normally Matt and I have a lot of experience playing music together and writing songs together. We've been in a number of bands together through the years. We play different instruments, so that has helped give us a sort of an ease to work together too. And this was a fun experiment because normally when we write, we're like, well, what is going to work for this band we're in, or what are we feeling, or what have we been vibing, like what have we been jamming on lately? What's the genres we've been really having fun with? But for this, it was like a sort of tonal experiment, and we were going for like one part sort of Hank Williams style, like outlaw country, and one part Sergei Leone's like spaghetti western movies, and Ennio Morricone's scores that are so iconic, and another part like The Monk. I don't know how to get it out of me, and it made it fun to just like kind of come up with these thematic ideas, and then the arrangements almost sort of wrote themselves as we were like, well, what do these have? We're sort of backwards engineering off of tropes that already existed to sort of find the tonal themes we were looking for, and then just sort of letting ourselves bleed into it. But yeah, those ones came together pretty quick. Some of the other tunes that haven't, I don't think they've been out yet, but there's a few moments where there's actual like diegetic like playing, singing, and playing, where like a character in the story is playing and singing.
I think that made it out there.
One of them has. There's a couple of other moments at certain other points in the future that those are songs that I have written, and those are from like older recordings I have that I probably put a bit more time into.
Harlow's also promised that I can contribute to the soundtrack at some point.
We're gonna get you on
Okay.
sometime. Yeah, I got some ideas for sure.
Okay, it's fine. It's fine.
So yeah, when is everyone gonna pitch in on a soundtrack and put Critical Role to shame?
I mean, we've got it on there. We've got it sort of unofficially.
Oh, I'm not singing.
I think it would be really awesome. We've talked a little bit about sort of doing a redub of the Two Monsters Rolling Dice theme song, the like Unga Chaka Unga.
Mm-hmm.
Adding more layers, because all of that is just me making like caveman sounds. And it would be, I think, a little bit more splendiferous if it had
Like
everybody
doing like our stomp thing.
Or maybe like a special edition of it. So
Uh-huh.
for like our 100th episode, there's like an extended version where it trickles in longer.
That would be fun.
And then everyone else is like doing some other monkey sounds or whatever, and it just builds into something a little more cacophonous.
That'd be cute.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
What is something that you would want to like expand into whether it's like another show is a lot of time, but you recently just did like a kind of how the rules work. Is there anything that you would want to like expand for like the characters, or as players, anything that you would love to be like, hey, can we get like a little cameo episode flashback to when the teller was young and bright-eyed and not secretly becoming the villain of the campaign?
We have
secretly
tons of ideas for stuff like that. I'm just gonna shoot straight.
So many.
We have side quests and flashbacks and
ones where we all play the animals.
Yeah, we had made a joke that we talked a little more about where like, actually this would be funny that if we all took a step to the left, and basically everyone for one episode
Played
just
each other.
inexplicably was just playing a different character.
You guys don't want me to DM. Just saying.
Want that.
You
No.
want that. I think like, you know, a couple of the characters have direct involvement in this War of the World that we've talked a little bit about, and it can be very easy to do some like action movie standalones of like sort of paths of glory, kind of like a soldier's duty kind of story that is a different thing, and maybe give a little bit more detail and a further sort of explanation of what that war was about. And there's you know, side quests that we've just sort of mentioned offhand that Chanterelle has spent many years as a hunter and trapper and worker for the PTC. There's any number of side quest missions we could play that took place on the mainland. We could show how she met Stomps. We could, you know, we could do the story of Adelie meeting Twinkle Bella. We could.
There's also, I mean, Harlow has been DMing and creating this world for what, like 20 years?
Yeah, this is my world. Every fantasy campaign, every like homebrew setting I've ever played in, I've either played in someone else's IP, like Fallout or Star Wars, or it's been in Palmyra.
Yeah.
And every campaign has taken place chronologically, so it's like we've gotten to the Steam Age at this point. Like it started out at the dawn of the world, where it's like these Lord of the Rings style quests of saving the world, and now it's like, you know, try not to let the capitalist machine eat you up and spit you out, and that's the campaign.
Yeah, well, and you have
I have
books that is about one of the original campaigns that Mel and Matt played in, and we talked about like doing like an audiobook reading of that. We like ideas a lot.
Yeah, we have a lot of ideas. For sure.
On top of being an amazing musician, Harlow is also a fantastic writer. So there is that. No, I'm going to say that because when I was going through some issues, that was a thing I like stalked you about for a week. I was like, send me a copy of whatever the hell you have. It's fantastic.
It is the novelization of a long form D&D campaign set in a more medieval setting. It's like a sort of renaissance of this world.
I mean, sounds like all great Patreon content.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have talked about that. Patreon is a thing that is, I mean, I don't want to speak with 100% certainty, but it seems like to be in our future.
Yeah, I'm not here to push it on you, but considering like how creative everyone is, it setting certain goals, like if you get 100+ subscribers, I mean, Mel, maybe if you did DM a wacky one shot.
I have 8 kids, and so Oops All Spawnlings episode has occurred to us that it might be a fun and very unhinged thing to have some of kids come and play D&D and just see how completely like Machiavellian they actually are.
I did also start writing a Stomps McGillicuddy point and click adventure, so it's a long. I love point and click games, so I think the thing with like Patreon and all of this stuff is like we've already talked about being burnt out, so it's hard to balance. You know, theoretically, the point of a Patreon is to make money, and so then the question becomes: if we're not gonna make money, do we have the time and resources to put a whole bunch into, you know, all of this additional content? And the answer is maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking good.
Yeah, I mean, we like doing it. So in that sense, it's not like a waste of our time. It's just, you know, all the other, our friends and loved ones will maybe directly suffer as we put our all into this thing.
People pay the price for greatness.
I agree, yeah.
The main reason I bring it up is just because I always have in the back of my head that little voice that's like, produce, create. You can be doing something with your time.
Totally.
Yeah. Are you marketing everything you should be marketing? And that's where I'm always curious about how you all view that potential step, because I think from the amazing podcast that you already create with the editing, voice acting, and just bringing the characters to life. Like I said in the review, even NPCs or how you interact with them have their own personality. Like the entire brothel that it, you know, all the characters do seem alive. And I'm like, no, don't kill them. Don't shoot at them.
Red Weathers was one of Harlow's favorite characters, and we barely got to meet the guy.
I had there was a story thing involved with the two of them, and I kind of had to I mean, it's in the dice. Like, you gotta react, you gotta respond. I can't just be like, now this is my character. Like, but yeah, I do try to find reasons for every NPC to exist on screen. More than just like, we need to go.
You dropped on Twitter that one of the NPCs is not who they say they are, and it is just constantly in my mind now. But I really
I have an idea.
I don't.
Everything
Alright.
seems
Oh.
straightforward to me in the Uncanny Valley.
I
don't know exactly.
I want to know what your idea is, and then we can. That way, it's time stamped, and we can prove it or disprove it
I do
later.
too, yeah. I kind of want to hear.
Probably you're not allowed to react.
I won't. No, I'll go off camera.
Yeah.
I just want to hear
You want who the character I think is,
Yeah,
not whom they say they are?
Yeah.
How can I do this without doing any spoilers?
We just
say it. Don't say why.
Harlow needs to put his
Oh.
hands on his ears.
Yeah, now I can't even think of his name. The PTC train guy.
The porter.
The porter.
The porter.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the porter. Yeah.
I think I'll just have to get the neighborhood watch and round up all the NPCs, and we'll figure out which one it is.
It's clearly Stomps.
Yeah, I think the porter is not whom he says he is.
Oh my god, what if it stops though?
What if it is?
No,
Stomps?
it wouldn't be. And if it was Stomps, we would all join his side. So.
Yeah,
We
I
run
agree.
it. Stomps is
Doesn't matter
just-
who he is.
Stomps is just two people in a costume, is what we learned this whole time.
Final reveal. Remember the gift cat bloom? You guys have been tripping balls the whole time. Stops even there.
Yeah, I could
I
see
think
that.
if
The
I
porter.
was gonna guess, it would be Twinkle Bella, but I feel like that's sort of explicit that she has like some kind of history too. So,
That'd break my heart.
on that count.
I personally think it's Mr. C. Is who
I also
think
thought
is
about
someone.
Mr. C. Yeah.
I've seen him do a couple things that Jaren thought was weird, but Just
Yeah.
was like, whatever, I don't care. I have bigger things to do than worry about this weirdo.
Developing that kind of personality, like it feels like that's very intentional, of like, I'm the bar guy and I'm a character. Like that's a real, that's intentional for sure, whether he's hiding something or just choosing to do it. IMO. Harlow.
Are you just loving this, Harlow? All of us trying to guess and you knowing exactly what's going on, and we're most likely wrong.
I definitely know what's going on.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I was going to say that's a large assumption that Harlow knows what's going on.
Definitely.
I think it's Professor
Yeah.
Plum in the dining room with the candlestick.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what needs to happen.
Don't.
Gratifying to hear you guys coming up with a lot of different ideas. Could be anyone.
Yeah,
You don't know these people.
it's true.
Right. You're gonna get loaded with text messages
Yeah,
with
I know this is-
ideas, Harlow. You know that, right? Like, so I was thinking it might be this person now.
Yeah, you're poisoning us right now.
Yeah, I know. This
Um,
conversation is fraught.
I just made your job harder, or your hobby harder. So I do have a couple outro questions I do like to ask in general.
oh yeah.
What is some great advice that you had received when you started? And what is some that you may have received that didn't work for you?
Mm.
I have a locked and loaded answer there. Good advice that we got when we started is that this is a long-term thing, and if you get into it expecting any kind of like explosion, you're kind of setting yourself up to feel like you have failed, and that even the most successful podcast get successful over time. And so that's the real key, is to keep that in mind and don't let a dip in numbers one week bring you down, and don't let a rise in another week get you cocky. And
I was going to say the same thing. Yeah, that podcasting is cumulative, that you just have to keep putting content out. And if it's good content, you'll get there, but it's not going to be like, people aren't immediately going to
blow up when you're on chart.
push
Yeah,
you on to
it's-
number one in the charts or anything. It's cumulative, and that means that any attention that we get is good, but that we don't need to have like crazy high expectations.
Yeah.
A
Well,
lot of people say that, and it's good advice.
it is. Yeah, it's good advice, and it's advice that at certain points, each one of us have had to remind another person on the podcast that it's like, this is a long haul. Like we're not, we're long haul trucking here. We're not speedboating.
The group often has to keep me in check because I get really excited. Like, it's going to happen, right? They're like, dude, we've just been at this for like 5 months. Calm down. Everything is sunshine and rainbows in Melissa's world, so.
Yeah, you're like, you think it will be Pixar when they make the movie? Let's just actually get to the end of this campaign. Yeah, and I will say this. Everyone's got ideas, and pro audio is so subjective, and you can have one person go into a cave with a bunch of garbage and make a brilliant album, and another person go into $1 trillion studio and make garbage. But we've gotten some genuinely bad advice on how to handle mics and spaces. But I was lucky enough to already know it wasn't going to be a good idea and have like reasons why it wouldn't work. And it was offered in good faith. Like it was, people want to be helpful in the community,
right?
And I would say that the best way to twist that is to remember that advice people say or give you on how to make a room sound good, or a mic sound good, or a voice sound good.
It might be individual.
So many asterisks on it. Yeah. It also just depends what you want.
Yeah.
Like maybe you want a trashy sound, or maybe you want a tight sound, or maybe this, or maybe that. Like there's no one way to get good sound or to get a product that you are happy with. So try stuff is the real answer when it comes to that pro audio shit. Like we started with a different setup than we landed on. And wound up, we were like, fuck, we're gonna have to spend more money. So we kind of figured out a way to make that happen, and then did. And it was worth it. I mean, it benefited us. It was an expensive,
oh my gosh, yes.
But in the end, like it is giving us a cleaner sound and a better, So yeah, I'd say that's the good bad advice I could pull. What do you guys got?
Yeah, I mean, I had the same good advice, I think, that stood out to me. I think bad advice, I think some people do not feel like you should tightly edit your actual play. And I think that is fair, and that those people shouldn't do it for theirs and shouldn't listen to ones that are. But I think that it has really changed the game, I think, for us. But yeah, I think that a lot of artistic decisions are subjective. And I think that the most important thing for us is coming up with a product that we really like listening to. And that has been successful for us thus far. So I think, I guess in general, don't listen to people's specific advice if you think that you wouldn't like that. You know what I mean?
Not at the expense. Not at the expense of what is working for you and your team. And your project. Like,
don't let one person being like, I hate when podcasts do X, mean that you never do X again, because there's plenty of people that do like that, Yeah.
Jaren, Melissa, do you have any good suggestions that people have given you, or bad? Or, I mean, Jaren, you had also commented about how you had acquaintances reach out to you. I always would run into people like, hey, I really liked the thing you did, and I also think you should do it this way.
Would we get better?
Yeah, we do get that.
Have you gotten any of those, or any that you actually like, you know what, they're hitting on a nerve, but it's almost helpful?
I've been fortunate that no, and I will say I'm a bit less engaged with our communities than Harlow and Sabina are. And so my focus is kind of just to come and play my character the best that I can. And so I guess some advice that I could maybe give that I think is just important in general is to make sure you're having fun as well. Like that's, I think, one of the most important things. If you're not enjoying your character and having fun with it, it will come across every single time, I think.
100%.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And same with the people you're playing with. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
And I don't think that means necessarily don't challenge yourself as a role player or even challenge the group. Like, we have a lot of adversarial behavior and a lot of adversarial characters, but it's also like we make sure that it's still fun to do that.
And I will say we've also worked through a lot of the initial sort of stumbling blocks with adversarial characters, thanks to Jaren and his sister.
The boxes.
I feel like we've got a handle on like how far we can take it, like what works, what doesn't.
And we could probably, any one of us could name a few other people that we've played with through the years who are essentially like dangerous sociopaths.
Oh my God, yeah.
Who like make this like hard to do, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. You know who you are.
They probably, honestly, they probably don't.
No, and probably
Yeah,
there's
that's
really nice people that we've played with that if they heard that would be like, was it me? And it wasn't.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The flip side on this, Darren already kind of commented on it, but if we could start with Melissa, putting you on the spot, what is something that you would like advise, someone who is participating in like an actual play podcast, like something that you would like give them advice for, whether they're just lending their voice or just starting it up?
A lesson that I've learned is just be compassionate and patient with your fellow teammates. And I say that because, and being truthfully honest, I struggle the most when it comes to mic work.
Mm-hmm.
And there's times that like Harlow is pulling his teeth editing the podcast because I'm either not on or I have a moment and I just start singing random shit and interrupting things. But mostly just not speaking loud enough or clear enough. And I'm always paranoid about it, but he's always super patient with me and always trying to give me ideas of like, how can we fix this? What can we do better? And he's not coming at me like, okay, you're bringing down the podcast, you're doing it this way, you're making it suck. It's like, hey Mel, this part's really hard to hear you, and like this is what I'm trying to work with. Let's see how we can, change that. So it's really just be willing to work with your castmates because we're not all perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that we are all able to some degree to be open about, things that each other can work on.
Yeah, even outside of the FateCore system, which sort of encourages collaboration, we're a collaborative group of players, and that helps us in those ways, like where we can lift each other up instead of be like, you're doing it wrong and you're doing this thing that pisses me off. It could be like, and I'm not getting this.
And
I feel like we can do it.
And we all know that we're putting a ton of effort, like each of us is putting a ton of effort into what we're doing. So it's that's like sort of the background of any conversation too. Is like, like I can't imagine the podcast without Mel and her character. So like, who cares if she's like an inch further from the mic? Like,
well, yeah, right. Like the struggle is far like outshined,
right?
Outshadowed by the.
It's not. No one is like ruining the podcast. You know what I mean?
That fucking first mixer we got was ruining.
Okay, that was.
Had that mixer.
Yeah, oh my God, that was like 80% of our how do we fix this conversations in the beginning.
I mean, yeah, that is something that like I've seen my own groups forget about. Is like once you see, positive comments come in and you're like, oh, we could do something with this. Let's make it better. Why aren't you performing how I want you to perform? It's like, no, just step back and like, we're just here to have fun and make something that's quality. Which I think y'all hit it on the head on that one. You're all a great bunch of hammers, and you saw that the nail was right there, and you just, yeah. But
we love nails.
Yeah. But again, I want to make sure I honor your time, and you said you do have to go soon. Is there any final things that you want to share about the podcast, or where people can reach you if they want to tell you how much they love your characters or how much they plan on them being evil characters down the road?
Yeah, you can listen to us pretty much wherever you can find podcasts under Two Monsters Rolling Dice.
Yep. TwoMonstersRollingDice.com is our website. There's a ton of shit to do there. There's also, on every episode page, there's a comment section, so you could definitely sound off there. We've had some comments, but we always love to see more.
Definitely send your merch ideas to twomonstersrollingdice@gmail.com because we're definitely interested in those.
That is not the email address, actually.
It's not anymore? Did I just mess it up?
It's gamemaster@twomonstersrollingdice.com.
So you
You've
can see
never
how
had
much
a
I'm involved with the website.
It was never that. So,
So whatever our email is, please send us ideas for merch, and I would be happy to work on that for you.
send out to random emails that monster in the name, and probably one of them will find
This is
it.
why I'm not a DM.
Open your window at 3 a.m. and whisper, and we'll hear you.
Love you, Mel. I was going to say that. It is gamemaster@twomonstersrollingdice.com. We know it's a mouthful. When we locked into the branding, it made a lot more sense than it does. Here we are.
And always the best way to support the podcast is to subscribe to wherever you listen to podcasts at. That's my part to read in the ads every week because I am notoriously terrible at reading anything scripted. Awful at it. I can't read from a script. I can improv real great. Can't read from a script.
I want to add that you can find us on social media as well. We're Two Monsters Rolling Dice on Facebook, and on Twitter we are dice_monsters.
Yeah.
And in case people forget, I'll put it in the little comment doodly-doo in the bottom so that they can just click right on through.
Amazing.
Sweet.
And
Thank you so much for having us on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this has been
Yeah.